The worst part wasn't watching her laugh with him. It wasn't even the way she leaned into him like a schoolgirl whispering secrets, as if I didn't exist 5 tables over. No, the worst part was the moment she made eye contact with me, raised her champagne glass, and winked. Like this was all a joke I was too dense to understand. The ballroom was a rented fantasy. Tall crystal vases on every table, a string quartet playing Coldplay like it was Mozart, waiters who looked like they were trained by the Secret Service. And there I was, wearing the only suit that still fit, sipping a flat whiskey while everyone around me looked like characters from a pharmaceutical ad. My name tag didn't even have my last name spelled right. 3 days earlier, I tried to decline the invite. "You have to come," she'd said, already annoyed, like she was explaining taxes to a toddler. "It's not just a gala, it's strategic. You know, for us, appearances matter." I nodded like I always do. For us. Like that word hadn't been slowly hollowed out over the past 2 years. Like I hadn't noticed how often she referred to herself as single when talking to her friends. Like I didn't see the gym membership she used once a month but kept for networking. Like I hadn't caught her boss's cologne on her coat in February and said nothing. That's the thing people don't get about men like me. We don't explode. We watch. We memorize. We wait. And maybe that's what kept me standing by the double doors for 5 whole minutes, scanning the crowd before walking in. I knew exactly where this was going. I'd known since the day I found the invitation in the trash before she handed me my copy, fake casual, like it had just arrived. She was already inside when I showed up, laughing a little too hard at something her boss said. Her hand was on his forearm, the kind of touch you pretend is harmless but isn't. Not when your husband is standing 5 feet away and you don't even flinch. She saw me, didn't even wave. That was the moment I knew I wasn't invited to celebrate anything. I was invited to witness something, or maybe to play a part in a performance she'd been rehearsing behind my back for months. Which, if you're still here reading this, let me pause and say one thing real quick. More than 97% of you who follow these stories never actually hit subscribe. If you want to help us keep going, just take half a second and click it. It means a lot more than you think. Anyway, back to the ballroom. The speeches began right after the salad. She was seated up front at the executive table, of course. I was back near the side exit, close enough to see the stage, far enough to not be photographed. It was subtle but deliberate, like putting the dog bed near the party guests so it feels included, but not actually welcome. Her boss stood up first. Tall, smug, a face like he moisturized with expensive lawsuits. He praised the team, cracked a joke about working late with some real star players, and didn't even pretend not to look at my wife when he said it. The people around me laughed. One guy leaned over and asked, "You with the firm?" "Something like that," I said. She still hadn't looked back once. They brought out the dessert, a tiny slab of something chocolate pretending to be French. The lights dimmed. The music got soft. She touched his shoulder as he leaned to whisper something in her ear. Her hand lingered. His lips were too close. My stomach didn't twist. My heart didn't pound. That had all happened months ago, the first time I noticed her texts lighting up after midnight. What I felt instead was something colder, cleaner, a kind of clarity you only get when the illusion finally breaks. Not in some dramatic shout, not with divorce papers or a screaming match, just a silent acknowledgement that the show's over. The script has run out of pages, and she was still acting. I watched her laugh. I watched her drink. I watched her pretend this was normal. And then I looked down at the table. I hadn't even touched my dessert. I didn't need to. I already knew exactly how this story would end. And she had no idea she'd handed me the last piece I needed. I don't remember what the toast was about. Something corporate. Growth, vision, partnerships. It doesn't matter. What I remember is his hand, moving slowly, like it had every right to be there, settling on her thigh like it was his seat at the table. She didn't flinch. Not even a twitch. Her champagne glass stayed raised, her smile stayed painted on, and her eyes, they flicked over to me, like she wanted me to see, like she needed me to see. That's when the whispering started. Her boss. Let's call him Graham, because that's exactly the type of name that fits a man who cheats on his wife with his assistant, donates to local politics, and keeps a burner phone for golf trips. Graham leaned in, lips nearly touching her ear, said something I couldn't hear, didn't need to. Because whatever it was, she laughed. Loud. Too loud. Then she reached out, touched his chest, almost playfully. Fingertips on his lapel like she was straightening it. But no one believed that. No one could believe that after the way he grinned and placed his hand behind her chair, slid it between her back and the seat and just kept going. Her spine arched slightly. She didn't stop him. She just took another sip. And I, her husband, sat there, 2 tables away, watching it unfold like I was reviewing security footage of a crime I hadn't reported yet. People saw it. That was the worst part. I caught a pair of interns nudging each other and smirking. A senior manager gave a quiet whistle, like this was locker room banter and not a woman allowing herself to be pawed like a purse in front of her spouse. I didn't say a word. I didn't storm over. I didn't shout. I placed my drink gently on the white linen tablecloth, next to my untouched dessert, adjusted my cuff, looked down at my watch. The second hand clicked past 8:17 p.m., and in that moment, I wasn't humiliated anymore. I was activated. Because here's what no one at table 4 knew. Least of all her. She wasn't the only one putting on a performance. See, 6 months ago I stumbled across a receipt. Not for jewelry. Not for lingerie. For parking. Late night. Downtown. Same garage twice a week, like clockwork. On nights she claimed she was mentoring the younger analysts. I didn't confront her. I just started noting patterns. Dates. Names. Recurring meetings with G. Then came the wine cork. She doesn't drink Merlot. Never has. Suddenly there was an expensive bottle missing from my birthday stash. Had friends over, she said. Book club. Sure. Book clubs don't forget to throw out corks with handwritten dates on them. 2 of 11 G. Still didn't say a word. Instead, I made a private email account. Linked it to a burner phone. Installed a camera in the coat closet, motion activated. Took screenshots from our shared calendar whenever she rescheduled her gym night. I even replaced the backup key fob to her car with one that logs entries. By the time I walked into that gala, I didn't come as a guest. I came as a forensic file wearing cufflinks. And when I saw his hand go under that chair, that was confirmation. Not suspicion. Not paranoia. Proof. This wasn't a betrayal anymore. It was evidence. And it changed everything. Because a man can be humiliated once. But a man who's already packed the parachute doesn't mind when the plane catches fire. I looked around the room again. Looked at the faces laughing at nothing. Looked at my wife smiling at her boss's hand on her backside like it was her new accessory. And for the first time in months I smiled too. Because I already knew what was going to happen next. Not tonight. Not here. But soon. And when it came, it wouldn't be private. It wouldn't be quiet. It would be surgical. 15 minutes. That's how long it took for Graham, the groper, to finish his speech, get another drink, and wander outside like the king of the gala. His hand still warm from violating my wife in public. He didn't know I'd followed him. No one did. The patio behind the ballroom was barely lit. Just a few old sconces flickering amber against stone walls and hedges that hadn't been trimmed since spring. He was lighting a cigar like some budget Bond villain, oblivious to the fact that the man he just humiliated was 5 steps behind him, silent. I waited until he exhaled. Let him take that first puff like nothing had happened. Then I stepped into the light. He turned, clearly surprised. "Oh," he said, grinning like this was an old boys' club and I was there to talk shop. "Didn't know you smoked." "I don't." He tilted his head, waiting. "You're going to apologize for what you did." He blinked once, then laughed. One of those dry, entitled chuckles men like him perfect in private school locker rooms. "Excuse me?" I didn't move. Didn't raise my voice. "You're going to apologize." He exhaled smoke toward the hedge. "To you." Another smirk. "Look, I know you're, what, her husband?" I lose track. "But this isn't a bar fight. It's a gala. I've got tenure, buddy." He said tenure like it was armor. Like it could stop what was coming. He leaned against the stone wall, smug as hell. "You really want to cause a scene? Go ahead. Maybe she'll finally have an excuse to get rid of you. We both know she's been carrying you for years." That's when I saw it. The faintest flicker of panic in his eyes when I took one step forward and he realized. I wasn't bluffing. No yelling. No speeches. No threats. Just one movement. I didn't wind up. I didn't announce it. My fist just connected with his mouth like it had a calendar invite. Sharp, direct, and exactly on time. His head snapped sideways. The cigar flew one way. His body dropped the other. A front tooth sailed clean through the air, spinning, gleaming, before it kissed the pavement with a delicate tink-tink-tink and came to rest by a cigarette butt and a crumpled gala napkin. He wasn't unconscious, just stunned, clutching his mouth, bleeding. mumbling something that probably started with, "What the F?" I didn't give him the chance to finish. I looked down once, just to confirm the symmetry. A smear of blood on his collar, the tooth catching the light. His expensive shoes, one of them untied. Felt quiet, peaceful even, not like revenge. More like punctuation. I adjusted my cufflink, stepped back into the building. There was a waiter by the side entrance. He glanced at me at the door, then back at me again. "You okay, sir?" "Just needed some air." Back inside, the music had shifted to something slow and classical. People were dancing, smiling, drinking. My wife was nowhere in sight. I grabbed another whiskey, nodded at no one. The tooth was out, but the rot was deeper. And now the real part began. Corporate HR doesn't wake up early, but their inbox does. At 6:04 a.m., the first email landed. Subject line, "Pattern of conduct?" Attached were 3 short video clips. Muted, cropped, timestamped, shot from a discrete angle, table behind and to the left. Not security footage. Not professional. Just clean enough to be undeniable. Clip 1, the toast. Her boss, mouth half-cocked in a smirk, slides his hand under the table. Her leg doesn't move. Her eyes lock forward. No protest. No surprise. Just silent approval. Clip 2, the whisper. He leans in. She laughs. Touches his chest, nails painted crimson. Behind them, at another table, a man in a black suit stares directly into frame. Still, stony, like he already knows. Clip 3, the grope. His arm wrapped behind her. Her body shifts just slightly to give him better access. She sips her champagne like nothing is happening. Like it's Tuesday. At 6:07 a.m., the second email landed. Same subject, different angle. This time, the footage showed the moments just after the gala ended, her and Graham walking toward the elevators. Too close, her hand on his lower back. He pushes the button for executive offices. The doors close. No commentary. No explanations. Just a line at the bottom of each message. Concerned about ethics. Anonymous. By 8:12 a.m., the internal Slack channel for HR lit up. Has anyone seen this? Do we know who sent it? This is very bad. Someone pinged legal. Someone else started cross-referencing event guest lists. At 8:47 a.m., a director forwarded the clips to the ethics committee. A whisper began making its way up the chain. "This looks predatory." No one wanted to say it outright. Not yet. But the word was forming in the margins. Meanwhile, I was at home, brewing coffee. I hadn't slept much, but not out of rage. I didn't feel rage anymore. I felt purpose. And purpose is a hell of a drug. I didn't send those videos. Not directly. See, the thing about planning revenge is you don't leave fingerprints. You leave footprints, leading exactly where you want people to look. I just gave someone else the shoe. Specifically, a temporary staffer from the event company. Young. Overworked. Underpaid. He'd filmed the gala for social clips, B-roll, they called it. I found him weeks ago on LinkedIn, posed as a recruiter. Offered him freelance work. Paid him $300 to sift through hours of party footage for branding shots. And told him to flag anything that looked off. He delivered. Didn't even ask why I wanted 2 clips in particular. People don't question when the invoice clears fast. As for the anonymous email, that came from a VPN laptop in a public library 2 towns over. Disposable drive. One-time upload. By the time legal traced it, it would look like it came from one of their own summer interns logging in from a Starbucks on accident. But none of that mattered. What mattered was the silence. The silence that crept into the 9 a.m. HR meeting when someone played the clips on a shared screen and no one breathed for 37 seconds. The silence that hung in the inbox after the chief compliance officer wrote back one sentence. Who else has seen this? Because this wasn't just about office gossip now. This was about liability. About exposure. About whether Graham, golden boy, handshake deal closer, had just jeopardized the company's entire image during an event paid for with shareholder dollars. And her, my wife, she was suddenly no longer the charming, high-performing executive in the red dress. She was now in the second clip. The third clip. The one who didn't say no. The one who smiled at the whisper. The one who entered the elevator with a man under investigation. I didn't speak to her that morning. Didn't need to. Her silence would come soon enough. Instead, I closed my laptop, sipped my coffee, and waited for the next domino to fall. She still worked out of the same narrow office wedged between a shuttered travel agency and a locksmith that hadn't updated its signage since 1992. The name on the door read B. Halvorsen SQ in gold vinyl that was peeling at the corners. But the hinges were oiled and the blinds were always drawn. No noise from the street ever made it in. When I walked in, she didn't look up right away. Just flipped a page, underlined something with a green pen, and sipped from a chipped ceramic mug that said, "World's okayest lawyer." "Let me guess," she finally said, setting the pen down. "She did something stupid in a dress that costs more than your monthly mortgage." I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. "Brenda," I said, "remember the clause?" She didn't ask which clause. She already knew. She turned to the filing cabinet behind her, one of those heavy, dented steel beasts with labels and faded Sharpie, and pulled out a folder from 2011. My name on the tab. Back when I thought I was just being cautious, not clairvoyant. She opened it slowly, like it was a sacred text. "Clause 12B, she read aloud, scanning with a practiced finger. "In the event of public reputational damage caused by either party through acts of adultery, lewd public conduct, or professional misconduct resulting in corporate investigation or scandal," she paused, looked over the top of her glasses. "The harmed party shall be entitled to expedited divorce proceedings and the complete nullification of financial obligations, spousal or otherwise." Her eyes twinkled. "Damn, you really did prepare for this day." I leaned back in the creaky leather chair. She laughed when I brought it up, said I was being paranoid, said it was a man's clause. Brenda nodded slowly. "And now she's become a headline." "She's about to." She closed the folder gently. "You know, most guys wait until the flames hit their shoes before they move. You started putting out buckets of water when the match was still in her purse." "I watched her build the fire," I said. "I just didn't tell her I was building a firewall." Brenda chuckled at that. Then her tone shifted, sharp and professional. "You still want to enforce this?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes." She scribbled a note on a legal pad. "Her assets. 3 joint accounts. One in her name from before the marriage, but she's been transferring bonuses into the shared account, mixing funds. I've got the statements." She raised an eyebrow. "Receipts. Color-coded. Indexed. PDF and hard copy." She smiled again, wider this time. "You always were my most paranoid client. I prefer the term prepared." She nodded toward the folder. "Once I file this, there's no soft landing. She'll lose everything the prenup touches." She already lost me. Brenda stood and crossed the room to the tiny scanner by the window. Began digitizing the clause, humming to herself like she was making coffee and not detonating a financial nuke. "She know it's coming?" "No." "Good." She paused at the scanner, finger hovering. "Just for curiosity, was it worth it? Watching it all go down slow. More than she'll ever understand." Back when we drafted the prenup, Brenda had offered a generic infidelity clause. Something standard, defensible, tidy. I told her no. I wanted something deeper. Something that accounted for public shame. Not just betrayal, but humiliation. Something built not for courtroom drama, but for boardroom headlines. I told her all those years ago, if she burns my name in front of others, she doesn't get to carry it into court. Now here we were. I stood to leave. "Expect a call from her attorney in 2 days, Brenda said, scanning in the last page. "He'll ask if you're open to mediation. You'll say you'll consider it. That'll spook them." "Thanks, Brenda." "Don't thank me yet." She grinned. "Wait until she realizes the only thing she gets to keep is the dress." I walked out into the fall air feeling lighter, like something had finally clicked into place. Like the weight of the performance, hers, mine, ours, had been lifted and replaced with something much sharper. I didn't need to raise my voice. I just needed a signature. And her signature was already printed, on the clause that was going to end everything she thought was hers. The footage was never meant to go public. That's what they kept saying. But in corporate ecosystems, public doesn't mean viral. It means internal. It means the VP of legal forwarding an encrypted folder to the CEO with a 3-word subject line. "We have a problem." It means late morning phone calls with compliance. It means risk assessment skipping lunch. By 1:12 p.m., every member of the executive board had seen the videos. They didn't watch them in the same room. No one wanted to be the first to react. But the response was identical: tight mouths, flexing jaws, stunned silence. It wasn't the groping. Not really. It was the pattern. The optics. The very clear imbalance of power wrapped in champagne and whispering and stilettos. That's when the emergency meeting was called. No Zooms. No assistants. Just 12 people in a frosted glass boardroom on the 24th floor. Doors locked, phones left outside, coffee untouched. Her name wasn't said at first. Only his, Graham, followed by words like exposure, perception, problematic conduct. Not one person said the word harassment, but it danced on every tongue. The head of HR leaned forward, speaking slowly. Regardless of intent, this opens us up. It's a liability, especially if there's more. Someone else added, if the press gets hold of this. They didn't finish the sentence. At 2:47 p.m., Graham was asked to step down, pending the outcome of an internal review. He wasn't fired. Yet, that would have been too messy, too reactive. Instead, they offered him the executive equivalent of a muzzle. Paid leave, quiet exit, don't talk to the media, lawyer up on your own dime. He tried to argue, claimed context and mutual behavior. But even he could feel it now. The tide. The room had already shifted from power to preservation. From, how do we support him? To, how do we survive this? Then the focus turned. To her. The head of ethics, clipboard in hand, looked grim. We'll need to speak with her. Today. Under what pretense? Someone asked. Pause. Preliminary ethics inquiry. Which sounds harmless unless you work in corporate America. Because in that world, the word preliminary is a scalpel. It cuts just enough to draw blood without requiring anesthesia. Her assistant found her 2 hours later in her corner office, mid-email, still unaware of the implosion brewing just 20 feet above her. She looked up, confused. Legal needs you upstairs. What for? The assistant didn't answer, just handed her a printed memo. She read it once, then again. No, she whispered. No, this isn't. Her voice cracked. She stood too quickly. Her chair slammed back into the credenza. Her face drained of color. Because she knew. Not everything. Not the source. Not the scope. But enough. She knew the gala wasn't a victory lap. It was a noose. And someone had just yanked the slack. By the time she reached the boardroom, she'd redone her hair and reapplied her lipstick. But it didn't help. They weren't looking at her like an executive. They were looking at her like a liability. A breach vector. A future headline. She tried to sound confident. This is all being blown out of proportion. One of the directors leaned forward, fingers laced, eyes dead. Then help us understand it properly. That's when she started talking. Too fast, too eager, mentioning how long she'd known Graham, how it was all in good humor, how there was nothing inappropriate about the toast. No one mentioned the elevator footage. They didn't have to. She kept talking, drowning. The head of HR finally cut in. We'll follow up tomorrow. For now, we're placing you on temporary administrative leave. She froze. You're suspending me? Pending further review. But I didn't do anything. He closed the folder gently. It's not about what you did. It's about what people saw. She stood there, lips parted, mascara perfect, pulse hammering in her throat. Her carefully built empire, a decade of schmoozing, networking, playing the game, was already cracking. And somewhere across the city, I was sitting in traffic, listening to jazz, knowing that by now the panic had begun. She'd climbed the ladder so quickly she never thought to check if it was bolted to anything. And now the rungs were snapping beneath her heels. The door creaked open like it always did. That stupid delay in the latch she'd been asking me to fix for months. But this time she didn't call out. No smug, I'm home. No sound of heels clicking in the entryway, just the slow shuffle of someone trying not to wake a ghost. She'd been suspended for internal review. Not officially fired, not yet, but everyone knew how that story ended. The office hadn't even tried to dress it up with corporate fluff. No mutual decision, no pending clarification, just a HR-issued email with bullet points, and a choked-up voicemail from the department head that didn't bother hiding the disgust in his tone. She dropped her purse on the floor, not even making it to the hook. Her blazer slipped halfway off her arm as she walked through the house like she didn't recognize it anymore. Like maybe she expected everything to be gone. My things, the couch, the photos from Costa Rica. But everything was in place. Clean. Silent. Waiting. Except for the envelope on the kitchen table. Plain. White. Unsealed. No handwriting. Just folded neatly with surgical precision. She frowned. looked around. "Hello." Her voice was shaky. No response. She walked over, peeled the flap back, pulled out a single printed email. Her heart stopped the moment she saw the header. From her own company address to Graham's. Subject: Gala Logistics, attendee list confirmation. Date 1 month prior. She blinked. Her own words stared back at her. Bringing the old man along for laughs, like a company pet. If he stays quiet and doesn't spill the wine on anyone's shoes, I'll consider letting him breathe near the execs. Face with tears of joy, and then Graham's reply beneath it. Perfect. We'll sit him by the doors. Easier to ignore that way. I'll tell catering he's allergic to status. 2 lines highlighted in yellow. No scribbles. No underlining. Just emphasized. Neatly. Quietly. Accurately. She sat down without meaning to. Her knees just buckled. The email slipped from her fingers and floated to the floor. It wasn't just the words. It was the date. The proof that this wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't heat-of-the-moment flirtation. This was calculated. A performance with a script, and she'd written my part as the background prop. She stared at the highlighted text like it was breathing, like it might stand up and bite her. I hadn't left a note. Didn't need to, because there's a unique kind of terror that comes not from being confronted, but from knowing someone let you bury yourself. She stood up, ran to the office, opened her laptop, inbox, sent folder, search, Gala. It was still there. The original email, untouched. She hadn't even deleted it. She'd forgotten. Because people like her forget what they say when they think they're untouchable. When they believe the props don't have eyes or ears or memories. She walked back to the kitchen like she was 100 pounds heavier. Sat again. Stared at the empty chair across from her. My chair. Then she saw it. On the countertop next to the coffee maker, my mug. The one that said, "Retired but dangerous." A gift from her. A joke once. Now, a warning. She realized I'd been here. That I hadn't just mailed the envelope or dropped it off through legal. I placed it. After she left that morning in a panic, heels clicking, voice too high on a fake phone call about damage control. I'd come back in, made coffee, and laid out the final exhibit. Not to shout. Not to accuse. To remind her. I saw it all. I chose not to stop it. I let her walk into the spotlight with her own noose in her hand. Now her face was drained, hands shaking slightly as she reached for her phone. She started to dial, stopped, dialed again, deleted the number. There was no damage control for this. No spin, no PR. Because when your own words become evidence, your own laughter becomes a weapon. And your own husband, the one you mocked for being quiet, becomes the man who was always 2 steps ahead, pen in hand, recording the whole script. She finally whispered to the empty room. Oh my God. He knew. And the room, in return, said nothing. It didn't have to. Silence had always been my sharpest reply. It was the first time I'd seen her without armor. No heels. No lashes. No sharp perfume that used to hit before she walked into a room. Just an oversized sweater I vaguely remembered from her college drawer and sunglasses that stayed on even in the shade of the awning. She picked the cafe neutral territory, she said. A little place tucked between a florist and a bike repair shop. The kind of place where no one knew either of us. I arrived first. I always do. She spotted me through the window, hesitated, then pushed the door open with a hesitation I've never seen in her spine before. Her gait used to be a statement. Now it looked like she was apologizing to the sidewalk. She sat across from me, didn't order anything, just looked down at the empty table like it had something to say. Her voice, when it finally came, was small. You've ruined me. I didn't respond right away, because she needed to sit in that sentence a little longer, to feel the weight of it. Let it thud around in her chest like a broken compass needle spinning without direction. I didn't leak the footage, she added quickly, like maybe that absolved her. It wasn't malicious. I was just... She trailed off, grasping for words that didn't sound pathetic. It was just a joke. The email. The gala. I didn't know it would all spiral. I offered, flatly. She flinched. I didn't think you'd retaliate. I didn't, I said calmly, pulling a thin manila folder from my coat. I enforced. I placed it between us like a napkin. She stared at it like it might explode. You remember this? I asked. Prenup. Page 4. Clause 12b. She opened it with trembling fingers. Skimmed. And then she saw it. Any public act that results in reputational harm. She didn't finish the rest. Her eyes locked onto the highlighted portion. A single sentence that had lived quietly in our shared filing cabinet for a decade. A clause she once called paranoid and unnecessary. The same clause she laughed off before signing with a sarcastic, "Guess that'll keep me on my best behavior, huh?" Her hands shook now. The folder slid slightly as her palms started to sweat. "You were always preparing for this?" she whispered. "No," I said. "I was just protecting myself." "You're the one who prepared it." She didn't answer, didn't blink, just kept staring at the document like it had betrayed her personally. "You think this makes you better?" she said, voice tight. "Because you caught me? Because you waited like some quiet little executioner with a legal folder?" "No," I said. "It makes me free." She closed the folder gently. Her face was pale, foundationless, exposed. "I lost everything." "You set the fire," I said. "I just refused to stay inside. I thought we had issues, but I never thought you'd." "Use your own words? Your own choices? Your own boss's hand on your thigh in a hotel ballroom." She winced. I didn't raise my voice, didn't lean forward, just sat there, letting it all hang in the air between us like smoke. There was no angry declaration, no list of offenses, just stillness. The kind that comes right after the final bell when you realize the match ended a few rounds ago, and you're still standing in the ring alone, swinging at air. "I didn't want this," she said. "You did," I said, folding the folder shut. "You just didn't think it would cost you." Her mouth opened, then closed. She didn't cry. She was past that now. Crying would have implied there was still something left to salvage. Instead, she reached into her purse, pulled out a set of house keys, and slid them across the table. Peace offering. Or maybe just an admission that peace had left the building months ago. She stood, wobbled slightly, didn't say goodbye, and I didn't watch her leave. I just tucked the folder back into my coat and signaled for the check. She thought I'd burned the bridge. But all I did was watch her light the fuse and hand her the torch. The photo wasn't supposed to matter. Just a snap from someone's phone, one of 100 taken that night. It surfaced on a random LinkedIn post 2 days after the gala. Some junior analyst sharing highlights from a beautiful evening of professional connections and celebration. You could barely see what was happening in the background. But someone did. Someone zoomed in. And there I was, standing maybe 5 feet behind Graham. Black suit, whiskey in hand, motionless, watching. It was the exact moment before the punch. The second before I moved. My jaw locked, my expression unreadable. Somewhere between deathly calm and biblical judgment. His hand is mid-air, gesturing to someone outside the frame. Probably her. And I'm just staring, dead-eyed, stone still. The internet ate it up. Someone screenshotted it, posted it on Twitter with the caption, "His face says it all." It was reposted 17,000 times within 24 hours. And that was before the video. See, someone else, someone with actual access, decided to leak the surveillance clip from the patio. The smoking area. The punch. It's grainy, black and white, but unmistakable. The setup is too cinematic to be real. Graham puffing on a cigar, smug and loose, and me stepping out of the shadows. No sound, just movement. One sentence. Then the hit. His tooth sails, slow and perfect, like something out of a low-budget boxing drama. His body crumples. I turn. Walk back inside like I just tossed out the recycling. The video goes everywhere. Reddit, YouTube, TikTok. It trends under the title, "Corporate Karma." The silent husband strike. They freeze-frame my expression. They count how many seconds I stand before moving. One creator overlays the clip with opera music. Another adds a fake movie trailer voiceover. "He came to the gala, but he wasn't there to dance." HR releases a statement 2 days later. "We did not authorize the release of internal security footage." Nobody cares. Because by then, it's not just a clip. It's a myth. And myths don't obey PR timelines. Graham becomes a meme, screenshots of his face mid-fall captioned with things like, "When the quiet guy stops being quiet." Graham went from partner track to dental track. Late-night comedy shows mention it in passing. A guest on a podcast refers to it as the single most satisfying moment in recent office history. My inbox, once quiet, starts filling up with strangers. Some offering support, others asking for interviews. I ignore them all, because I didn't do this to be famous. I did it to be seen. And now? Now I could not be seen if I tried. She, on the other hand, disappears. Her LinkedIn goes dark. The firm removes her profile from the company site. Quietly, without comment. Like deleting a typo. She doesn't post anything. Doesn't resurface. The last photo of her online is from the gala. That red dress. That perfect smile. That illusion of control. And the comments have turned. What used to be admiration is now sarcasm. Wonder what the performance bonus is for getting punched out by your subordinate's husband? She's either the dumbest smart person alive or the smartest dumb one. Imagine blowing your life up over a man named Graham. And under one photo, just the two of them in the elevator, captured from a lobby cam days before the gala. A single comment has over 1,000 likes. She thought he was the power play. Turns out, she married it. She became collateral. I didn't post the footage. Didn't tweet the photo. Didn't leak a thing. But when the world finally turned its eyes toward me, after months of being dismissed, ignored, background, I didn't flinch. I just let them see. Not the punch. Not the rage. Not even the revenge. Just the look on my face before it all began. That look, that's what really went viral. The parking lot was quieter than it had been that night. No valets, no red carpet, no champagne flutes clinking in the distance. Just the soft hum of floodlights over rows of modest sedans, a few folding signs directing donors to the side entrance, and a couple of teenage volunteers waving people in with clipboards and grins too wide for 7 p.m. I didn't dress up much. Navy jacket, dark jeans, plain shirt, no tie. Didn't need one. My name was already on the event sponsor list. The foundation chair had invited me personally. We'd be honored if you'd attend, he'd said. No hidden agenda. Just respect. Inside, the venue hadn't changed. Same chandeliers. Same floor plan. Same pale blue drapes that always looked like bedsheets trying to be elegant. But this time, the air felt different. There was no pressure behind my ribs. No forced smile waiting to crack. Just quiet, steady confidence. I moved through the room slowly, greeting old colleagues, nodding at the familiar. And then I saw them. 3 employees from her firm. Not executives, just mid-level, maybe analysts or coordinators. They stood near the dessert table, murmuring to each other until one of them noticed me. Eyes widened. He tapped the shoulder of the woman next to him. They didn't avoid me. They walked over. No small talk. No awkward chuckles. Just one of them offering a simple, quiet, "Sir." Another added, We saw the footage." I raised an eyebrow. "Which one?" They laughed nervously, then shook their heads. "All of it." Then came the question. The one I'd heard in various forms since the video went viral. "Is it true what they say you said to him?" Right before the hit. I took a long sip of water. Smiled. "No," I said. "I never said a word." And just like that, they understood. More than any punch. More than any clause or leaked email or meme. The silence was the message. A few feet away, the fundraiser's host announced the start of the program. Lights dimmed. I was ushered toward the front row. Not as someone's +1 this time, not as filler, not as a ghost invited for appearances. As a guest of honor. I passed by the same spot where the tooth had landed. Funny how a place can hold memory like a scent. She wasn't there. Of course. I checked, half curious. Her name was gone from all internal rosters. Her office had been cleared out. No lawsuit, no farewell post. Just an organizational change, buried in a quarterly update. The company didn't try to protect her. They protected themselves. Like they always do. I took my seat. Applause rippled around me as the speaker introduced the night's honorees. I clapped politely, smiled, let the room see me. I'd won without ever screaming, without swinging twice, without burning anything, because sometimes the loudest thing you can do is walk away while they're still trying to understand what hit them.